Chapter 6 Song on the Wind. "Peanut's track," said Annie. "We have to find her before she freezes." She wrapped her reindeer coats around her neck and headed across the snow. Jack pulled on his backpack and followed. The mouse track led them between the fallen rock and back onto the open plain. The wind blew harder. Snow swirled over the ground, covering the tiny footprints. "I can't see them anymore," wailed Annie. She and Jack now stood in the middle of the plain. They stared at the windwept snow. "The mouse track has vanished." "Yikes," whispered Annie, staring up. Jack followed her gaze. On one of the cliffs was a tiger, the giant tiger with two long sharp fangs. "A sabertooth," said Jack. "I hope he didn't see us," whispered Annie. "Me too," Jack whispered back. We battered heads back to the treehouse. Jack and Annie stepped very softly across the snow. Then Jack glanced back at the cliff. The sabertooth was gone. "Oh man," he says, "where is he?" "Run to the trees," said Annie. He and Annie started running. They ran over the snow plains, heading toward a tall bare tree up the distance. Suddenly Jack heard a crack. The ground caved in, and Jack went with it. Annie fell behind him. They crashed down onto the heap of French snow. They struggled to stand. Jack pushed his glasses into place. "You all right?" he asked Annie. "Yes," she said. They both looked up. They were in a deep hole. All Jack could see were gray clouds moving overhead. "This is a trap," Jack says. "Our Cro-Maggons must have put branch over these holes. Then the snow hides the branch, so we didn't see them." There's no way out," said Annie. She was right. They were helpless. The pit was too deep to climb out of. "I feel like a trapped animal," Annie said. "Me too," said Jack. He heard a yell in the distance. "The saber-tooth," whispered Annie. Jack pulled out the Ice Age book and found a picture of the saber-tooth. He read, "The saber-tooth was the fearless beast of the Ice Age. It attacked humans as well as woolly mammoth and other large animals." "Oh, brother," said Jack. "Listen." Annie grabbed him. "What?" Jack jumped. "I hear music." Jack listened, but all he heard was the wind. "You hear it?" said Annie. "No," said Jack. "Listen carefully." He closed his eyes. He listened very carefully. He heard the wind, but this time he heard another sound too. Strange hunting sounds. "Ah!" cried Annie. Jack opened his eyes. Staring down at them was a figure wearing reindeer antler and an old mask. "The sorcerer," whispered Jack. Squeak! Peanuts peered down at them too. Chapter 7 The Sorcerer's Gift. The sorcerer didn't speak. He stared through the eye holes of the old mask. "Help us, please," said Annie. The sorcerer threw the rope into the pit. Jack grabbed it. "You want to pull us up," said Annie. Jack looked up. The sorcerer was gone. "Where did he go?" Jack says. "Tug on the rope," said Annie. Jack tugged. The rope tightened. It began to rising. "I'll go first," said Annie cheerfully. "Annie, this isn't a game," warned Jack. "Don't worry, I'll be careful." Jack gave her a rope. "Okay, but hold on tight," he says. Annie held the rope with both hands. She pushed her feet against the side of the pit. She rose into the air with the rope. She kept pressing against the side of the pit until he reached the top. Jack saw the sorcerer reappear and help Annie up. Then they moved out of sight. Jack was puzzled. The sorcerer has used both hands to help Annie. So who held the other ends of the rope? Whoa! Came Annie's voice. What was going on? Jack wondered. The sorcerer came back and threw out the rope down again. Jack grabbed it, and the rope started to rise. Jack held on tight. He started up. His hand burned. His arm felt as if they are being pulled out of their sockets. But he kept his hold on the rope and his feet against the side of the pit. At the top, the sorcerer pulled Jack into the snowy ground. Thanks, said Jack, standing. The sorcerer was tall. He wore the long fur robe. Jack could see only his eyes through the old owl mask. Hey, Annie called. Jack turned. Annie was sitting on the wool mammoth. Squeak! Peanut was sitting on the mammoth's head. The mammoth looked like a giant elephant with shaggy reddish hair and long curved tusks. The other end of the rope was around the mammoth's huge neck. Lulu, pull us off, said Annie. Lulu? Lulu? Said Jack. Don't you think she looked like a Lulu? Said Annie. Oh, brother, said Jack. He walked up to the mammoth. Hey, mammoth. Hey, mammoth started with M, said Annie. Maybe Lulu's the special thing. I don't think so, said Jack. The great creature knelt down, just like a circus elephant. Whoa, said Annie. She clutched the mammoth's ears to keep from falling off. The sorcerer helped Jack climb onto the mammoth. Thanks, said Jack. Then the sorcerer reached into the pouch. He reached out the smooth white bones and handed it to Jack. The bones was hollow. It has 4 holes around one side, and 2 on the other. Oh man, I think it is flute, said Jack. The book says they make flutes from mammoth bones. Jack tried to give a flute back from the sorcerer. Nice, she said politely, but sorcerer held up his hand. He wants you to keep the mammoth bone, said Annie. Mammoth bone, whispered Jack. Hey, maybe this is the third thing. Jack looked at the sorcerer. Do you know Morgan? He asked. The sorcerer did not answer, but his eyes sparkled with kindness. He turned away from Jack and untied the mammoth rope. Then he whispered in the ear of the giant woolly creature. Then the mammoth sailed up. Jack gripped Annie close to keep from falling off. He felt miles above the ground. He knelt behind Annie, in the deep between the mammoth heads and huge curved back. The mammoth took slow plodding step across the snow, then picked up speed. Where are you going? Said Jack as they bumped up and down. To the treehouse, said Annie. How does he know where it is? Said Jack. She just knows, said Annie. Jack looked back. The sorcerer was standing in the snow, watching them. But at that moment, the clouds sparkled and the sun came out. Jack was blinded by sunlight on the snow. He squinted to see, but the sorcerer has vanished. Chapter 8. The Giant Parade. The huge mammoth walked over the open plain. Look, said Annie. She pointed to a herd of elk in the distance. They had great white antlers. There, said Jack, as they heard the reindeer come into into brew. They placed a grand sleigh across the snow. Then the woolly rhino joined them on the open plain. Then the bison, the elk, reindeer, rhino, and bison moved along with them at the distance. They seemed to be escorting Jack and Danny back to the treehouse. The snow sparkled with sunlight. This is a great parade, Jack thought. Fantastic! They were getting closer and closer to the grove of tall trees. I told you, said Annie, Lulu taking us home. But just then Mammoth let out a cry. All the other animals bounded off. Peanuts started to squeak. Jack looked around. Beyond the sabertooth was sinking over the sunlight snow. The woolly mammoth rose and plugged forward. Jack and Danny nearly fell off. Jack clutched Annie. She and Peanuts clutched the mammoth's shaggy hair. The mammoth thundered wildly over the ground. Ah! Jack and Annie yelled. The mammoth close to the grove of trees. But the tiger had circled around the trees. He stood between the tallest tree and the mammoth. They were trapped. The saber-tooth began moving slowly toward the mammoth. The woolly mammoth roared fearlessly. But Jack knew the saber-tooth could kill any creature, including the mammoth. The huge tiger head was down. His burning eyes were fixed on the mammoth, his long white fang glancing over the sunlight. Chapter 9. Master of the Animals. The saber-tooth crept forward. Jack stared in horror. Play the flute, whispered Annie. Is she nuts? Jack thought. Try, said Annie. Jack held the mammoth bone flute in his lip. He blew. The flute made the strange sound. The tiger froze. He glanced at Jack. Jack's hands shook. The tiger growled. He took another step. The mammoth roared and stomped the ground. Play, said Annie. Keep playing. Jack blew again. The saber-tooth blew again. Jack kept blowing until he ran out of breath. The tiger snarled. He's still here, whispered Annie. Keep it up. Jack closed his eyes. He took a deep breath. Then he blew as hard as long as he could. He covered and uncovered the holes on the bones. The music sounded strange, as if it were coming from another world. He's leaving, whispered Annie. Jack raised his eyes. The saber-tooth was shaking off toward the cliff. We did it, said Annie. Jack lowered the flute. He felt very tired. The mammoth waved her trunk happily. To the treehouse, Lulu, said Annie. The woolly mammoth snorted. Then he lumbered over to the tallest tree. From the back of the mammoth, Jack grabbed a rope ladder. He held it for Annie. She stroked the mammoth's giant ear. Bye-bye, Lulu. Thank you, she said. Annie grabbed the rope ladder. Then he started up. Peanuts climbed up too. After they disappeared into the treehouse, Jack climbed onto the ladder. He looked back at the woolly mammoth. Bye, girls, he says. Go home now, and watch out for the saber-tooth. The mammoth walked away into the sunset. When Jack couldn't see her anymore, he started up the rope ladder. He pulled himself into the treehouse. Ta-da, said Annie. She handed the Pennsylvania book from Jack. Jack smiled. Now he was relieved they had found the third M thing. Their mission was complete. Before we leave, we have to give our coats back, said Annie. Oh, right, said Jack. They took off the reindeer skin coats and dropped them to the ground. Brr, said Annie. I hope the Krumagons people find them. Jack stared down the window. She wanted to take one last look in the prehistoric world. The sunset was setting behind the hills. 4 people were crossing the snowy plains. It was a Cromagons family. "Hey!" shouted Annie. "Shh!" said Jack. The Cromagons stopped and peered in Annie's and Jack's direction. "We'll have your reindeer skins down there!" Annie pointed to the ground. The tallest person stepped toward the raised raised a spear. "Time to go," said Jack. He grabbed a Pennsylvania book. He found a picture of the Frog Creek woods and pointed it at it. "I wish we could go home," he says. "Goodbye, good luck," Annie called, waving at the window. The wind started to blow, and the treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 10. This age. Birds sang. The air was soft and warm. "I hope they found their coats," said Annie. "Me too," said Jack. He pushed his glasses into place. Squeak! "Hey, you! How did you find the sorcerer?" Annie asked Peanuts. Squeak! "It's a secret, huh?" said Annie. She turned to Jack. "Where's the flute?" He held up the mammoth bone. Then he placed it on the M curved into the floor. Next on a mango from the rainforest. Next the moonstone from the time of the ninjas. "Moonstone, mangoes, mammoth bones," and he says, "We need just one more M things. Then Morgan will be free from her spell." "Tomorrow," said Jack, and he patted Peanuts on the head. "Goodbye, you," she says. She started down the rope ladder. Jack gathered his thing. He paused and glanced at the mouse. He stared at him with big brown eyes. "Thanks again for helping us," he said. Then he climbed down the rope ladder and jumped onto the ground. Jack and Annie ran through the Frog Creek woods onto their streets. The neighborhood looked rosy in the sunset. "It's great to be back in this age," Jack thought. "Warm and safe and almost home. I'm glad we didn't have to go hunting for dinner," he says. "Yeah, Moms and Dad already did that," said Annie, "at the supermarket. I hope they trapped some spaghetti and meatballs," said "Spaghetti and meatballs," said Jack. "I hope they trapped a pizza," said Annie. "Hurry, I'm starving," said Jack. They ran up the sidewalk and through the front door. "We're home," shouted Annie. "What's for dinner?" shouted Jack.